Good morning. It's February 13th, Monday morning. My name is Sam Shalhoub, and here is the latest of what's going on. So, we've had a lot of interesting developments over the last week. We had a Chinese spy balloon that was supposedly shot down after it traversed the entire nation. And then we had some unexplainable sightings. We've had one over China that was supposedly shot down, one over Canada that was supposedly shot down, cylindrical objects, very mysterious. No real details on any of it, which I find very interesting. And then Saturday, we had an airspace in Montana that was shut down with no explanation, none that I'm aware of. There's been a theory around for a long time that the powers that be would be using what would be called maybe a false flag or some event to keep the narrative in the news stream under control. And isn't it interesting that we have this flying object over Michigan shot down? We have one over China. We have one over Canada. We have airspace in Montana. And then last night or yesterday, we had one over Lake Huron that was shot down. And the Biden administration is coming out and saying, well, there's no reason to believe, it could be an extraterrestrial, but we're not ruling anything out. And they would use that word, extraterrestrial, which I think is significant. So, what's been in the news lately? The Hunter Biden laptop. 400 plus crimes that he and or his family have committed. We have the Nord Stream pipeline has been proven that the United States did it. We have the Pfizer gain of function information that's come out. And it seems to me that they're using whatever they can so they can cover up or clog up the news stream. And there's a lot of people talking about this. I'm not the only one. But I think we have to look at why. Is it just to keep those narratives under control? Or is it more like the government saying, look over here, not over here? I had I had a interview about 10 years ago with a former military intelligence officer. And this was around the time when Fast and Furious was taking place, where Obama was sending guns over to the Mexican cartels. And this gentleman and I spent hours on the phone, and he explained to me that, yeah, that was a big deal, but the reason that they released that information was there was something else called Easy Actor, which was a much bigger operation that they didn't want anybody to know about. So they sacrificed, so to speak, Fast and Furious so they could hide Easy Actor. I don't know any details on the Easy Actor thing, but I do know that it was significant, and I knew that they didn't want anybody to know about it. So is that part of what's going on now? There's been a lot of people talking about a theory that UFOs will be brought out into the mainstream and that they're using that for cover. And I tend to believe that. I tend to believe that there has been extraterrestrial contact with our world for a long time. I think it's been hid. I think it's been defamed for a long time. And most every time when you see some sort of extraterrestrial or alien movie, what are they doing? The aliens are trying to kill us or eat us or hurt us in some way. Maybe it's just the opposite. I mean, think about it. If you have a life form that has traveled here from light years away, the technology they must have would be vastly superior to that which we know about. Why would we go out of our way to harm an ant colony? We wouldn't. It's silly. But I think that's part of what's going on here. I believe that there's probably going to be more and more of this alien activity exposed. And I think it's kind of a beta test. I think they're trying to see how the population is going to react to it or respond to it. And if it meets certain parameters and objectives, then they will continue with it. And if it doesn't, they'll switch to something else. Nobody knows for sure, but that's just my opinion. That's, I think, part of what's going on. And we had another incident recently. We had this train derailment in Ohio. It's very, very significant. There's a lot going on with it. And I tend to think, you don't hear about it on the mainstream media. It's hard to find anything about it. And then the authorities, NTSB, I believe, it was a chemical train. And so what they did in all their wisdom, they decided to incinerate some of those rail cars and release these deadly chemicals into the atmosphere. And now there are animals dying as far as 10 miles away. Is this more of a cover-up? Is it more of just the nefarious people in our government doing whatever it is they want to do? Probably. But this is a time we're living in that is unlike any other that I've experienced. I'm 60 years old now. There's a lot going on. I don't know that the average population would be able to maintain normality if they knew 10% of what's really going on. That old movie, The Matrix, man, is one of my favorites, but I think there's a lot of truth in it. I think people live in a bubble. I think that when you talk about the food supply, the water supply, the air supply, they're all so toxic. People are doing their best just to survive, let alone dig deep into things that matter. I think people live in a bubble. I think that bubble is beginning to burst. And I think that's a good thing. I think that some people call it the Great Awakening. Some people call it truth. I think it's all those things. And it's happening now. We're living in very exciting times. These are good things. Anyway, I hope you have a great day, and thanks for listening.